Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. Last week, someone asked, Mark Saketa asked about the hospital revenue model, and this was part of the media literacy about hospital revenues and coronavirus, and is it true that they're getting their money from misreporting coronavirus? Well, I dug into it a little bit more, and when you think about what constitutes hospital revenue, there's two ways to think about it. One of which is, of all interactions, emergency and non-emergency, on average, non-emergencies are worth $700 or more than emergencies. So people coming in with emergency COVID just by averages, but that's kind of not useful because it includes so many interactions. If you look at it by type of procedures, the top 10 revenue sort of generating procedures for hospitals, it's like cardiovascular surgery, cardiology, neurosurgery, orthopedic, gastroenterology, hematology and oncology, general, internal medicine, pulmonology, and cardiology. So none of those are emergencies. Like, I mean, they can be related to emergencies, but these are all what would generally be considered either life-saving or elective, in that they're not an emergency necessarily, but you need to have it for like cancer, heart surgery, things like that. All of those are now stopped, or at least less. And it gets into, there's a report that was put out by the American Hospital Association where I was able to quantify the impacts to hospitals of COVID-19. Now, of course, they're a lobbying group, so take that with a grain of salt, but their numbers tend to be fairly legit because they got a lot of people looking at them. So they're a useful bellwether. I wouldn't say it's exact, but it's close. And you can get an idea of how COVID has impacted hospitals, and this myth that, well, hospitals are just going to report more COVID because that's going to get a lot more money for them. It all goes back to April 7th. There was a Congress critter, a Republican, and the CARES Act had just been passed, which I think gave a 20% boost for Medicaid. And what he said, you can go back and check, he said, this presents an avenue for increased billing. He didn't really provide any evidence for that. It was just a statement. It's never been documented or demonstrated, but from that April 7th interview, there's been this whole media conspiracy thing that hospitals are just going to make money hand over fist by reporting coronavirus. Well, the reality is a little different. So the AHA estimates that just for COVID-19 hospitalizations alone, when you look at what they get paid for by Medicare, including the 20% uptick from the CARES Act, they lose $36 billion over the last 4 months. And that's because anyone who's worked in a hospital with Medicare reimbursement knows that the Medicare reimbursement rarely covers all that you need. It's why private insurance is so expensive. It's got to make up the difference, right? You balance out your private insurance payments with your Medicare payments, because Medicare reimbursement almost never covers the actual costs. So just in COVID-19 alone, if that was the only business the hospital did across the country, it'd be out $40 billion. But much more, all those surgeries I just listed, those revenue ones, those have largely been canceled. So the revenue losses from canceled surgeries is about $160 billion over 4 months. So you've got a net cost of dealing with COVID is negative. You've lost $160 billion more revenue from not doing surgeries. You've spent probably $2.5 billion on PPE and additional safety procedures. And then there's the sort of additional services you need to provide for your workers, transportation, daycare, things like that, they, again, not all hospitals, I'm not trying to make hospitals out to be saints. Some hospitals have treated their workers really bad, but the estimate is about $2.2 billion spent just on these additional frontline worker services. So the total, and this is from March through June, is a little over $250 billion lost from COVID, or about, they're averaging 40 to 50 billion a month. So they're not making money. And the problem they're facing now as we get into wave 1.5, it's not ending, right? This is, as that hospital capacity decreases, you're not going to have all these pending surgeries suddenly flood back in. So the hospitals are in a real problem with that. And that's, so that kind of puts another nail in the coffin of the whole, does Medicare reimbursement mean that people are misreporting things? Short answer, no. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.